Welcome one and all to another Borderlands 4 video. Over the past week, we have had some pretty cool info drops and videos from Gearbox on their Borderlands YouTube channel, and some Amon gameplay from the Billy World event. Today I want to break down some info we have about Borderlands 4 characters, and a little bit of background we have around the story. Afterward, I have some details about Vex to share, and then some new things to share about Amon. But up first is breaking down Borderlands 4's world and characters. We start with Rush. This guy here, we've seen him before in other cutscenes and things and in gameplay, and he is the leader of the Outbounders. And they describe Rush's personality as being kind of like a coach type of character. The Outbounders, however, are similar to Vault Hunters, and they wanted to get off of Kairos when all of a sudden there was a lockdown, so they are ripe for revolution. They got stuck on Kairos because of the lockdown, as I said, and want to leave. Vault Hunters show up and get them to join the broader Crimson Resistance. So what I find interesting about that wording is we still, as the new Vault Hunters, consider ourselves part of the Crimson Resistance on Kairos. I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but it does make me wonder how the beginning of the game plays out for our characters to be considered part of the Crimson Resistance. Next up is a little bit about Idolater Saul. And yeah, I was saying his name Idolater Saul. I don't know, in the video they pronounced it Idolater Saul, so I'm going with that. Anyways, the way they described him, it kind of gave me a bit of a Captain Flint vibe, but maybe more menacing. He really wants to be the Timekeeper's right-hand man, and Flint never wanted to be Jack's right-hand man. He was just after money, but I got a feeling the desperation may be what makes them similar. Idolater Saul is the first commander you'll face in the first area, the Fade Fields. Now, I am really excited by the fact that he's going to be the first commander that we face in the Fade Fields, because I have just been really loving the vibe that this guy gives, Idolater Saul. He just looks so menacing and awesome, and the fact that he's voiced by Darren DePaul, the guy who voices Eshram from Halo Infinite, just makes me so much more in love with the character and the way he sounds and how menacing he sounds. I mean, the guy is a freaking awesome voice actor, so really excited about this one. The next thing we get to learn about is the Augurs, and they are descendants of the original mining teams sent quote unquote there. I don't know if by there he meant Kairos or a mining facility. They were sent to get resources like Ordinite out of the mountain range. I take it these people are probably like slaves to the Timekeeper. In the mountains resides a faction leader named Calder. He is part of the Augurs and among the council members of the Augurs. He's the only one willing to stand and fight the Timekeeper, while the others live in fear. Calder is this short old dude with the staff we've seen in other trailers. Now, Calder as a character, since he's part of the Council of the Augurs, who are people that work on the mining facility to get Ordinite and other resources, but more importantly, at least to me, Ordinite, I do wonder if Calder is going to play a part in what your usage for Ordinite is in this game. They said it's not a currency. They've already completely taken that off the table. So we have no idea what Ordinite really does in this game. We still just don't have any idea. They're holding that incredibly close to their chest, so it must be very story related, and I just wonder if Calder is going to be a character that plays a big part in what Ordinite has to do with the story as well. Now, in the Terminus range, Vialictor is the commander. Vialictor is also an Augur, and since Elpis crashed into Kairos, Vialictor has gained access to plenty of Iridium to experiment with. Apparently this kinda goes on, as they put it in the video, quote, under the nose of the Timekeeper. So maybe the Timekeeper isn't fully aware of what's going on here with all these experiments, and personally, I wonder if we get to see firsthand the Timekeeper's reaction to finding out about this. It also makes me really curious when they say that Vialictor is an Augur, because if Vialictor is one of the commanders, then how is he an Augur? Is he just a commander of the Augurs, and is in charge of even the council that Calder was part of, or did Calder work with Vile Lictor? It does make me wonder a little bit, and I'm certainly curious to find out more about the Augurs and Vile Lictor. Now, moving on, we have the Electi faction. They were upper elite people that benefit from the Timekeeper. That is until Elpis crashed. They previously lived in the city, but when the lockdown happened, they were locked out. And now they have to learn what life was like on the other side of that wall. Now, something I'm curious about is because they lived in the city, if they have any kind of insider info whatsoever, or if they were just fortunate enough to live somewhere where they were treated maybe better. I don't know. I can't imagine you're treated much better under the Timekeeper, but maybe you are. I don't know. But their leader is this person here, which I've been really curious about. We've seen her in the trailers and such, and I've just been really curious who this is. And the leader's name is Levane, which she is described as the gorgeous golden Levane. And that's pretty much all I got out of this whole thing. Don't really know a ton about this person. All we know is that they were, I don't know if I would call it fortunate, spoiled, or what have you, to be on the inside of the wall, and now they're learning what the misfortunes of living under the Timekeeper is. So I'm really interested to see if they kind of end up being this squad of people that really has no relevance to a fight, if they end up taking up arms because they realize how crappy the world is with the Timekeeper around. I'm really interested to see how this faction plays out, and it's just crazy because it seems like there are a lot of different pieces, different factions to this game, and that definitely makes me wonder how everything's going to play out with all these moving parts. Now, next is Callus, whom is the Ripper Queen, residing in Carcadia Burn. She ripped her bolt out, survived, and convinced a number of people to rip them out and basically rebel against the Timekeeper. Now, I've heard plenty of people talk about Callus, and do we team up with her? Is she an enemy? And the overall consensus, a lot of people, at least from what I've heard, is that, you know, it'll be one of those things where we fight and then we come to understand that we have a common enemy and maybe we come together to fight the Timekeeper. But at the same time, she doesn't sound like the best of people. She kind of forces people, apparently, to, if she can't convince them to rip the bolt out, she'll just do it for them. And you don't always survive getting the bolt ripped out, so it's a life and death situation. And then, of course, some of her, quote, minions, or whatever you want to call them, people that help her rebel against the Timekeeper, some of them just lose their minds when they get the bolts ripped out, so they end up being your enemy anyways, or her enemy, or whatever. They're not sane. So in a way, this does kind of remind me a little bit of Tyreen with Psychos, and I don't mean to put a bad spin on things, because I know a lot of people weren't Tyreen fans, but I'm just saying in more so of a way of Tyreen controlling the Psychos, and it seems like Callus kind of does the same thing here. And next is the Timekeeper, which we still haven't gotten a ton of info about, which I wouldn't really expect that we would, but, you know, if you're new here, the Timekeeper is the main villain of Borderlands 4. The Timekeeper has control over anyone with, quote, unshielded bolts. The wording there leaves me to believe some may have protection from these bolts even while they are still in their body. Like, for instance, the playable characters, the Vault Hunters, the people we play as. Maybe they are protected from these bolts somehow, who knows how, but the bolts allow the Timekeeper to see everything, using your eyes as his surveillance. Supposedly also allows the Timekeeper to just straight up take control over you, so I do wonder if maybe that's the key, is that we have a bolt in us, and then we are able to still kind of function because we have some sort of protective layer where he can't control us, but maybe he still sees through our eyes, and that's how maybe he stays kind of one step ahead of us. And Gearbox also recently has started saying that Borderlands 4 is being called a good starting point for newcomers, but also a turning point. This makes me think some big events will definitely be taking place in the story of Borderlands 4. I know some of you might be like, duh, but I mean, we saw the end of pre-sequel, and you know, not to bring up what might be a painful reminder to some, but we still have no idea what any of that meant, and it's been a long time since the pre-sequel came out. We also, not to, again, painful reminder, had new tales come out, and a lot of us kind of hope that's not canon, but we still have no idea about that either. So there is a lot of questions about the story of Borderlands right now and wondering where it's gonna go. Anywho, I got all this information from Beyond the Borderlands #2, a video put out by the Borderlands YouTube channel itself, and I'll have it linked in the description if you'd like to check it out for yourself. And if you guys watch it and then, get any inklings of ideas or anything about what you think might be some good predictions on the story or characters of Borderlands 4, then come right back here and let me hear it. Okay, now we move on from the Borderlands 4 story overall, and we go more in about Vex, talking about her action skills, and even some of her background. They call Vex a necromancer siren. A siren focusing on lots of kinetic damage instead of elemental damage, and so she siphons health, drains health, uses lifesteal, things like that. And then she has her phase familiar named Trouble. She has something similar to Gamma Burst where you can actually teleport Trouble around, and Trouble will also turn larger in size when you do so. Something again similar to Flak when it comes to having Trouble. Your phase familiar is speccing into certain parts of her skill tree. The familiar can actually soak up damage for you and get a better crit chance while hitting any part of the body. Again, very similar to Flak in that way. And then we move on to Vex's incarnate action skill. On start, she sends out a quote explosion, which they call a Geist Wave, and that's the sonar shriek we've seen Vex do. And then she gets a Soul Orb, which she can use to Eldritch Blast enemies, and the more damage she deals to enemies, the faster the action skill comes back. Vex also has ways to buff survivability like lifesteal or making her rep kit recharge faster. She can use an augment to keep her soul orb on the battlefield, making enemies take more damage. These are all different ways to spec Vex in just the incarnate skill tree alone, which is really awesome. Last action skill we have for Vex is Deadringer, which is when she spawns Reapers and Spectres. I've talked about this one before on my channel, and I love this action skill. It's probably my favorite one she has, although I will say Incarnate has really been ramping up to be a favorite of my action skills for Vex. The way Deadringer works is you spawn Reapers and Spectres, and it seems to have a focus on kind of like a minion build, so if you like being able to just sit back and watch things kill for you and just absolutely melt away a boss, enemies, mobs, whatever, well then this is probably going to be for you. You can have it so the Reapers siphon health back to you, which I love. Spectres are clones that use guns while Reapers use a scythe, and what's cool about Reapers is they basically have built-in Red Fang where they will taunt your enemies to distract them. I feel like I could totally see either really tanky builds where you run with the Reapers most of the time and they siphon health for you and things, or you have kind of glass cannon build where you try to sit back and hide while the Spectres do all the damage for you. I could be wrong, take that with a grain of salt. I haven't really looked a ton at Vex skill tree, so I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, the last thing about Vex is if you haven't seen her character short, well, honestly, it's just better if you watch it for yourself. I believe it's about like 3 minutes long. It's a great backstory and a comical little backstory showcasing when she gets her powers and what her life was like before becoming a siren. I also think the ending is cool because you get to hear each of the Vault Hunters talk and what they sound like. I'll leave the video linked in the description, and I can't recommend enough checking out this video and just seeing it for yourself, because the short really just portrays the understanding Gearbox has of what we want out of Borderlands when it comes to darkness and comedy and all of these things culminating in one beautiful, chaotic game known as Borderlands. One last thing, and I don't honestly have a ton to say on this, you can check out other creators for this, but something that has been flying around the internet right now is Amon. Some of his gameplay and skills from people playing at the Billy World event have been getting clipped, screenshot, and passed all over the internet. I will have some of the skills flashing on screen as well as links in the description to each one of these. We can see a lot of gameplay showcasing how sleek Amon's action skill animations look and just how satisfying his gameplay looks. I have to be honest, they are making it really tough for me to stick with my guns and just play as Harlow, but I'm gonna play as Harlow, but like they are making it hard to not choose Amon because typically I do love elemental builds and things like that, status effects, all that kind of stuff I usually like a lot. And on top of that, one of my favorite characters in all of Borderlands, Amon literally has her abilities, and that is Athena with the shield. And there is some skill you can read where basically he can take out his shield and get stacks of, I think it's called like revenge or revengeful or something like that, and stack those up, and then when he throws the shield, throws the shield just like Athena, and he'll do more damage when he gains those stacks. Very, very similar to Athena, and that makes it increasingly extremely difficult not to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna go with Amon here. But the thing is that holds me up and makes me say, hey, I'm gonna stick with Harlow is her strong ability for mobbing, and I love mobbing. Honestly, Vex was my second choice that I was going to go with if Harlow didn't work out. Then it started to become Rafa, and now it's starting to become Amon. So Harlow is going to be my first. I have literally no idea who my second character is going to be. So if you're struggling with choosing who you want to play first, I completely don't blame you. But anywho, I've rambled long enough. Let me know if you do know who you want to play as for your first playthrough. Let it be heard down below. And if you enjoyed the video, then make sure to press that like button. And if you like Borderlands 4, then stick around, get subbed. I'm going to be covering everything Borderlands 4 until well after the game even comes out. So I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.